the Second World War. The design was however refused before it even entered prototype phase, and instead of going on with it, it was modified heavily and eventually it led to the T28 and the T95 super heavy breakthrough tank concepts. So, another American super heavy breakthrough tank, isn't it? Don't worry though, this one is not as slow as its big brothers at Tier 8 and Tier 9. But let's see it in detail. The comparison will be this time around against other Tier 7 premium non-turreted tank destroyers, like the Su-122-44, the Su-122S, the British AT-15A, or the American M56 Scorpion. Starting with the punch it packs, its firepower can probably best described as mediocre. While it does the job, there isn't actually one single area where it will really excel, and the stats are more middle of the road really. The penetration, for example, at 181mm is quite alright and actually in line with the rest of the bunch as well, as is the alpha damage, which is quite meaty with 320 damage per shot on average, and that will actually chew up the same and lower tier opponents quite nicely. It's really more the rate of fire that lets this thing down a little bit. With only 6.3 rounds a minute, you can barely scratch 2000 DPM, and that's not that impressive at this tier, especially considering the crazy Soviet competition. Oh, and by the way, with that penetration, it's highly suggested that you pack some APCR rounds as well, as you will often be forced to face higher tiered, more heavily armored opponents head-on. As for the secondary gun stats, with 0.38 meters dispersion and with a quite bad 4 degrees gun depression only, this thing is definitely not a ridgeline sniper. But there are some good news in the bag as well. The aim time for one at 2.2 seconds is actually quite alright, as are the secondary dispersion values as well, so shooting on the move with this thing is actually not an idea from the devil. Also, your gun arc, that can quite often be the downfall of non-turreted tank destroyers, is really comfortable as well with 60 degrees, so that's definitely something that you can look forward to. This, by the way, will also help you to angle your armor and keep your gun pointed towards the enemy at the same time. Moving on to protection, 880 HP is alright, although, to be honest, it could be a little bit more on something that relies on taking the enemy's fire on its chin. Talking about which, look at these armor values. While on paper the British AT-15A has slightly better protection, all the angling on the T28 concept means that frontally, this thing is simply a brute. And while it definitely has its weak points, since there are not too many of these machines running around in the random battles, you will definitely run into people oblivious to its weaknesses, at least more than with other tanks and tank destroyers that would also rely on their armor. Now taking a closer look, frontally the picture is quite impressive. You really need 200mm of plus penetration to go through the lower plate and 250mm plus to go through the front of the superstructure next to the gun mantlet. At the same time, the upper plate is extremely well angled, so unless you can shoot down on it, it's going to be an auto bounce zone. Where you can hurt it frontally are either on the 3 cupolas on top, where the armor is 70mm thick only, although these are very small targets, or your best shot is actually the 2 large bulges on either side, where the machine guns are located. Shoot at directly the machine gun, and already about 100mm of pen will be enough to go through it. The annoying part, however, is that you just can't hide these completely, no matter what you do, so at least try to rock back and forth trying to get a ricochet if it hits the well-angled side of these bulges. Sideways on, the protection is still quite alright, especially lower-tiered light tanks can get caught unaware of it. The tracks are protected by spaced armor, so your best bet to penetrate it would be actually on the superstructure. Here, from about 100mm of penetration will be enough, though be aware that the frontal part has still some armor zones that you would best avoid. If you can, shoot it in the rear section from the machine gun turrets onwards. And last but not least, from the rear, even this machine is paper thin as well, as expected. The lower side has 50mm of armor, while the upper, more angled part has only about 35mm, so here is your best bet to penetrate it with HE if you want to be super cheeky. Moving on to the mobility, the 29 km/h top speed is actually a really nice surprise, especially if you played any of the other super heavy breakthrough tanks from the American line before. Even the power to weight ratio with almost 14 horsepower per ton is alright considering, though the terrain resistances are definitely the worst of this pack. Overall then, it's not as bad as some of the other super heavy tank destroyers, but it will struggle uphill and on anything else than hard terrain. Now talking about struggling, the hull traverse is really abysmal with only 18 degrees per second, so expect to be outflanked really easily if you let anyone close to you. And last but not least, view range is actually another nice surprise with 370 meters, that's the best from this bunch, while camo values and radio range are rather average once again. So, another city-loving heavily armored tank destroyer then that's surprisingly mobile, with limitations of course, and that will catch the opposition off guard quite a lot of times. To enhance its strengths further, for equipment I suggest to use a gunrunner, vents and a spall liner, while for crew skills I would prioritize repairs and sixth sense, followed by brothers in arms to try to squeeze out even the last drop of rate of fire as well. Right, this was then my quick take on the T28 concept. I think it's high time to see how it does in its element, doing the job it was designed to do, dishing out the pain on Siegfried line. Alright, so here we are in our T28 concept, dishing it out on Siegfried line. Although with a weird twist, we are actually defending it this time around, which I don't think was originally the plan for this machine. Anyway, it's a city map and we are very happy about this fact. The same goes for the matchmaking as well, I mean, look at this. There are only a couple of tier 7s on both of the teams, the rest are tier 6s and tier 5s. That's something that we will be able to chew up really effectively with this machine. And if we have just a little bit of caution, we should be able to bounce most of the incoming fire as well. We also seem to have the more experienced players in the match, so that can actually mean trouble. I mean, everything goes for our team at the moment. We really have to make a push to get some damage done. Don't worry though, we will. Oh, we definitely will. Right in the beginning, it seems the enemy team is still well in the middle of advancing up to its positions. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks in front of us. Absolutely mental. Let's see what we can do. Look at this alpha damage. Against tier 6s, tier 5s, even the tier 7s, 320 average damage is really nice. And it will definitely make these guys think about twice popping out. Well, apparently not quite enough. Don't know really what this ELC was doing. I don't think that was the plan. And he bites the dust as well. Look at these guys. They don't really dare to come up in front, even from the sides. The A43 is shooting at the well-protected tracks. So that means we are a tough nut to crack, even from the sides. It seems the Easy 8 had about enough of being completely destroyed behind these rocks. Not the others though, so we just keep on chewing them up. Now the rate of fire on these things is not amazing. However, we are already at 2500 damage. If the enemy tanks are just lining up to get shot, we definitely will not say no to it. Okay, it's a drive your tank in a crazy way day, it seems. And the pile of burning dead tanks just keeps on growing in front of us, literally. Now the enemy team is completely melted at this point. We have a 6 tank advantage, and this is only a couple of minutes old. I think it's high time we put ourselves into gear and actually push into the few remaining enemies to make sure that we can actually secure the damage. Look at this. That's a super heavy breakthrough tank for you right there, just pushing aside its dead enemies. And there's a bit of a rush shot, unfortunately. Not a care in the world. Simply going ham on this KV-85, ramming him. Can completely ignore him as well, it really doesn't matter. Let's go for the most damage we can secure. And that shot in the Skoda T28 was definitely the better choice there. Just look at this. No damage, no damage, no damage, ricochet, bounce, no damage, bounce, no damage, bounce, bounce, ricochet. That's what you can pretty much expect from this machine if you put it in a strong position, and we were in a strong position there, and if you are playing against either inexperienced opponents who really don't know where to shoot this thing, or against lower tiered oppositions. And I think this time around it was really